Hello, I'm Nick Walter from zappycode.com, and this is a video showing you how to make your apps look great on the iPhone X. And the reason I'm making this video is because I was curious myself. My wife has an iPhone X, and anytime there's apps that don't, handle the top bar correctly, it's kind of a little bit irky, annoying. And so I thought, well, I need to learn how to do this for my own apps. And in my research, I found a great blog post which really helped me learn this and get to where I am now. So I'm going to leave a link to this. It's by Lee Ka-seng. If you're interested, I'm sure I butchered that pronunciation, but really good info there. But with that said, let's go ahead and do a quick video tutorial here so you can get all the tips on how this works. Well, let's go ahead and get started by firing up Xcode, and we'll just go ahead and create a new Xcode project. We want a basic, just single view application. We're just playing around to see what iPhone X design looks like. So let's just give it a cool name, something like X Fun. You can leave this whatever you want here. It doesn't even matter if you have Swift or Objective-C because we're not going to be writing any code. So we'll just go ahead and create this, and I'll throw that on the desktop. Now, you're wondering, okay, I have an existing iOS app or I'm making a new one. How do I make sure it looks good for the iPhone X? The great news is that most likely you won't have to do too much. Apple has made this very seamless for most developers to make things look good. So for example, let's go over to the storyboard here, and let's say I want to have a view controller with a table view inside of it. So let's search for a table view down at the bottom corner and go ahead and drag that out here. If I want this to fill the entire screen, I'm going to set its constraints to 0. I just sort of tab through there. That's what gets those little red lines to auto connect there. And I hit add those 4 constraints, and boom, fills up the whole screen, right? So if we go ahead and test this on an iPhone X, you'll see it looks pretty good. I'm going to change my simulated phone to an iPhone X. We'll hit run. Okay, and if I'm kind of going through quick here, I assume you have some base level iOS knowledge here. That's kind of where I'm going fast. I just want to get you up to speed on the iPhone X specific things. So with that, your device will show up. Now, with your device, if it's too big, too small, whatever, go ahead and go up to a window and you can change to physical size, show the bezels, don't show the bezels, all that good stuff to make sure it looks right on your screen. And you may notice too, for example, I'm missing like gray bars here. That's just an issue of when it's simulating a bunch of pixels being condensed down into a lesser amount of pixels, it sometimes has to decide, do I show the gray bar, do I not, whatever. There's no error, it's just simulating a more pixel dense device on your computer, which is not as pixel dense, is going to have issues unless you've got one of those crazy retina screens, in which I am very envious of you. So with that said, right, we've got this nice app looking here, and look, I mean, it looks pretty good, right? The table view goes all the way to the top. We've got the nice white background. No issues there. What happens if we embed this inside of a navigation controller? So I'm going to take this view controller and I'm going to go editor, embed in navigation controller. Okay, let's go ahead and run this, see what that looks like. Okay, and we get build succeeded. And when the app opens up, you can see it handles everything appropriate, right? Now we have this like gray background up top here for the beginning of the navigation bar, and we could fit some buttons up there. But where things start to get tricky is when you have your own custom navigation bars. That's where it's kind of like, well, how do we handle this situation? And so the most common area I think you'd find this is if you're popping up a modal view controller and you're going to have a navigation bar up top, but it's not part of a navigation controller. This is where things get sticky. So for example, let's just have I'm going to get rid of this navigation controller that we're embedded in. So we'll just, let's not let me delete that. I could probably just do Control-Z to go back. There we go. I'm going to delete this table view that's inside of there, and instead I'm just going to throw a button out here onto the screen. Great. And I'm going to make it so that when we hit this button, we pop up a new modal view controller. So we've got to have a view controller to show. So I'm going to bring one out here. Right, and I'll kind of just put this off to the side. Then I'm going to select my button, hold down the control key, and do a click drag onto this view controller, and say that this is going to present modally, right? And so this modally presents this new view controller, which then means, you know, we've got to have a way for someone to exit out of this view controller. So sometimes the way people handle that is they go get a navigation bar. So if you scroll down, search for navigation, you can grab a navigation bar, and we can go ahead and put up at the top here. And, you know, we could put a back button, for example, inside of there. If I look for a button, we don't want a regular button, we want one of these bar button items, but I can put that up at the top left, you see. And so this could say, for example, exit, something like that, right? And so now let's go ahead and run this. See what we get. You'll see the issue that's going to come up here in just a second. So app opens up, we hit the button, we get this new controller presented modally, and look at this, right? Like the exit button is all of a sudden like wedged up at the top here. It's just, it's not looking very good. This isn't what we wanted. So you're thinking, well, let's bring that navigation bar down. Well, then the question is like, how far do you bring it down? And then do you have to write some code saying, if we're on the iPhone X, bring it down this much, but if we're not on another one, don't, right? Like it gets pretty confusing pretty quickly. But that's where Xcode's safe layouts really help us and make this super simple to work with. So if we kind of undo back here to when we first brought in this navigation bar, I'm going to search for that again, navigation bar, I'll bring that out. Okay, so if we bring this out, we're going to say here, one thing that we definitely want this navigation bar to go all the way to the left, all the way to the right. So if I pick these constraints, I can do that. We also want it to go up to the top, but not just the top of the view controller. But for now, just go ahead, hit the top, leave whatever numbers there. Mine says like 34 right now. Okay, we'll add those constraints. The big thing that you want to do here is you want to make sure that this extends to the top of the safe layout area. And so what we're going to do is select, it's kind of hard, you got to get your mouse just over the constraint, go ahead and click on that, and we're going to look at our constraint in a little more detail. So make sure you highlight the attributes inspector here, and you want to see what the first item and the second item are and where they're connected. So it's saying the navigation bar's top, which is up here, is equal to the second item, which is the safe area top, and that's exactly what we wanted, the safe area. Sometimes you might see that you're in the super view. You don't want to be connected to the super view. If we do that, you can see it extends all the way up to the top. So we want the safe area, because the safe area, that will move depending on if it's an iPhone X, it comes down a little bit more. If it's another type of phone or device, right, like it will go make it a little bit shorter. It just sort of handles everything for you. Okay, so that's good to have it to the safe area, and we don't want 34 for a distance now. We can make that 0. But you'll notice now, if we go ahead and run this, this is where things get a little bit tricky. Okay, build succeeds here. We get our view to pop up modally. Is this, look at this. Now that navigation bar, it has its color there, and then, you know, the view controller's white. But then up at the top where you've got the status like bar kind of notification stuff, it's sort of that white pale color, and it just, I don't like the zebra look. It just doesn't look good. So this is where we're going to add a view between the very top of the view controller and the top, or essentially the top of the safe area is going to be its bottom, and we're just going to fill that in with a solid color. And you can do this with an image. That's what we saw inside of the medium tutorial here, but I found this is probably just a good use case like this. So let's go ahead, and before we leave, I want to add that bar button item just so it looks nice as we're previewing here. So I'm just going to call this exit. Okay, so we just need to bring out a regular old view. This is usually close to the very bottom, so I'll delete everything and scroll down. Look, there's a view. And I'm going to try and place it somewhat up near the top, although you can't always get it exactly where you want. If we sort of zoom in here, I'm going to try and place it just, you know, exactly where it should go here. And I'm going to start filling out the auto constraints for this. So again, basically, we just want 0, 0, 0 everywhere. So I'm going to do 0, tab, 0, tab, 0, tab, 0. We got all red lines there. That's good. That means we're adding 4 constraints. And now let's go ahead and inspect what these different constraints are. So if we have this view selected, let's go here to the little ruler. This is going to show us all the constraints. So this first one, it's the trailing space to the super view. and that's fine. That's for the right side. Left side, same thing there. The top space is to the super view, right? And that's the good thing. That's going all the way to the top of the view controller. That's great. The bottom one is going to the navigation bar. You can choose whether you want it to go to the navigation bar or to the safe area. Essentially, they're both the same thing, right? Because we set them to be equal to themselves, but you can go ahead and change this if you wanted to. If you said, you know what, I don't want this to go to the navigation bar top, you could change this to the safe area top. That's totally fine as well. So now that we have that view, the next step is we can set its background color to be the same as the navigation bar here. And so I've got a great little app here, a color picker, that'll let me just quickly go and grab this. So let's just highlight it over here. F9, F9, F9 is the hex that we're looking for. So now I'm just going to go to my view here and I'm going to set its background color. Let's go ahead and hit this. I'm going to paste in that hex color, hit tab, and now it's got the nice same hue as everything. So with this in place, if we go ahead and run this on the iPhone X, ooh, big moment of truth here. Okay, app opens up, we hit this button, and boom, look at that. We got the nice same color going all the way here. And so this just looks like a standard navigation bar, even though, right, like it looks like a navigation bar that would be in a navigation controller, yet it's just its own thing right there. And so yeah, this is basically all I wanted to show you. The big takeaways here are make sure that whenever you're putting things inside of a view controller, you're connecting with the safe area, not the super view. The super view is going to give you issues unless you specifically want to put things up at that very top space. If you have any questions or comments, I'd love to hear about them. Leave them down as a comment to the video. And if you ever need help learning how to make apps, please check me out on zappycode.com. Thanks for joining in.